Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome an accomplished professional with several skills from Quebec, Canada, Darnell Brown. Darnell, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here. I appreciate in advance your time, your questions, your presence, and looking forward to having a good time, man.
Thank you. Darnell is a creative polymath and a community builder. He's a seasoned multidisciplinary creative and community builder specializing in digital branding, marketing, and storytelling. So, Darnell, my first question, what first drew you into the creative world as a child? Was it that school drawing you sold?
It actually started before then.
Uh-huh.
Before then, I remember maybe being around 3 or 4 years old. One of my first memories was my was seeing something that I had drawn, but I don't remember drawing the thing. I just remember seeing it after a certain point in time.
Hmm.
And I think it was like an animal like a lion or something. And I guess I always just been that way. You hear about some people not remembering learning how to swim or not remembering getting their ears pierced. So for me, it was definitely drawing even before I could remember it. And so I'd always just had that spark in me. And then what you're referring to with selling that class drawing, that was yeah, that was many years later, maybe about I think I might have been 9 or 10 at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But before then, I think it was just, yeah, I don't know why I've always just been into it, but that was my earliest memory was seeing something that I had drawn. And then I remember really being into the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which was like super popular
Mm-hmm.
in the States and in Chicago where I was born. And I remember sitting in front of the TV, like drawing the cartoons and waiting till the live action movie came out. And I
Mm-hmm.
was just, all I was into those turtles. I was into ninjas. That was probably my first big time that I was really drawing a lot and just was like I could dedicate my whole life to
Mm-hmm.
this.
How interesting. You worked with over 300 clients since 2008. What key shifts have you seen in creative entrepreneurship over the years?
I think the big things would involve the the scope at which you can work from no matter where you are, and how the creative entrepreneur space is one of, I guess, a few industries where you don't need to be on site, that you can do your work in a digital context. Remember back when I got started in the game around 2008, I think the big websites that had helped you do remote work would have been Upwork, which at the time was called Odesk,
Hmm.
and I think Elance was the other big one. Like those were the big two around time that I got in. Obviously, there are way more websites that you can use again
Yeah.
to work with people all over. So a big one is just the amount of how big creativity has broadened in terms of being able to do remote work. And then so that's one of the big things that I've seen change. I
Hmm.
have also noticed how much I and others were what we call on a self-imposed entrepreneurial island, meaning that you jump into this game as a freelancer and you may not have a business plan or anything ready. You may not even be good at business. You may not even appreciate those aspects. But when we start banding together and we get in these same rooms and realize, oh wow, this person is pretty much very similar to me, and
Hmm.
we both have to get better at the entrepreneurial side of things and not just the creative if we want to have self-sustaining businesses. If we
Hmm.
want to be able to put ourselves in positions to work with other people, we have to step up this side of the equation. And you
Hmm.
need both working in tandem to be uh, a successful enterprise owner, in my opinion. So
Hmm.
it's those big two things there, the remote element, and then recognizing how much it's not just you, that there were a lot of entrepreneurs who came out around that time
Hmm.
going through similar things.
Hmm. Great response. Thank you. Let's talk about digital branding, marketing, storytelling, and community. Tell me, what does being a multidisciplinary creative mean to you in today's business world?
Yeah, I love that question. I think it means when when you're multidisciplinary, some of us think of it like that saying that we call like a jack of all trades, a master of
Hmm.
none, where you realize that creativity is in everything. It's
Mm,
such a part of the fabric of everything that we interact with, from our phones, from our furniture, from the signs that we see, the menus at restaurants. It just flows through everything like air.
mm,
When you're multidisciplinary, that means that you have worked in both several different verticals and industries, and the type of work that you do is
mm,
beyond what people would typically associate with
mm,
creativity. And so the example that I like to give usually is most people, they would see graphic design as one thing, but when you add copywriting into that, when you add, okay, how do visuals and motion picture and
mm,
static picture all work in tandem to tell a story? These are several disciplines, and it's not just about graphic design anymore. It's a wider world. Graphic design is a small part of the equation.
mm,
And when you are attempting to help a business or an entity or a person produce a better brand, you
mhm,
realize that design has design is one small part of it, but design is more than even the graphics. Design
mm.
is how you work with your employees. Design is in the things that you say,
Yeah.
the team members that you work with. You're working with several different modalities,
Mm,
and so it's the practice and the pursuit of strengthening muscles where there's creativity in every single thing. And you
mm,
realize as you grow as a designer, as a creative, as you grow, you realize how much the things that you used to do play a tiny role,
mm,
but they do inform and help you build better businesses once you can be more skilled in some other places.
Well said. What's one mistake you see creatives make when trying to blend their artistic and business identities?
So one thing I think that they make is, well, I will include myself in this because I'm a creative as well. It goes back to a little bit of what I was saying before, where we just, as we say, throw caution to the wind, and we're just like, okay, my creativity is going to speak for itself. It's going to
Hmm.
sell itself, and people will come to me because my work is good.
Mm,
And then you realize, yeah, that's how it starts, but it doesn't, like, that's not a sustainable way to go about things. Of just thinking that your work can speak for itself, unless you are paying for ads or you got a whole team around you that is promoting you all of the time and that is handling all of your connections, that's doing all of your networking, that's doing all of your meetings, and that are moving back and forth your proposals, and that all you can do is just work on your things. If you don't have that, you have to be constantly out there branding yourself. You have to be making new connections. You have to do outreach.
mm,
You need to be at events. You need to be speaking loudly and promoting yourself. So one of those big mistakes is thinking that your work is going to speak for itself. And again,
mm,
it can for a time, but it absolutely is not going to sustain you. There will come a time where the people that you work with won't need you anymore.
mm,
There'll come a time where those relationships will expire. And if you're not working on branding or building those new relationships as you are doing the actual work, as we
mm,
say, working in your business versus working on it,
mm.
you're going to find yourself at some point going through a lot more valleys than there are peaks.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing that I would change. Well, one of them, if I could go all the
Mm,
way back, would be okay, from day one,
mm,
making new connections, finding mentors, always working, Ashutosh, as much on the entrepreneurial side as much as the creative stuff that you're
mm,
doing. So you have to
mm.
be doing both all of the time. Like, never just rest on your laurels or think that your work alone will build a sustainable business.
Very well said. Daniel, how do you define a powerful personal brand in the digital era?
I define a powerful personal brand as if we all can't, and we all can anyway, since we all can't be unicorns,
Hmm.
I feel like the next best thing is to be extremely singular at
Hmm.
what you do. There's a brand that is unapologetic, that is singular at what they do, and it doesn't mean being better than everyone else, but it's what we call almost being like the only,
Hmm.
or the one that people think of when it comes to this one thing. So powerful personal brands, they just do things differently than everyone else. They don't
Hmm.
feel like they're coming off an assembly line approach.
Hmm.
Powerful brands are trendsetters. They don't follow trends. They're the ones who set them. And they find their people, they know exactly what they do, and
Hmm.
they just excel at being the best version of themselves or the best version of their brands.
Hmm.
And again, since we can't, unicorns, they're rare, and that's the other thing is when you can be in rarefied air or you can be singular at what you do,
Hmm.
you automatically become more valuable because what is rare, we end up valuing more. And
Correct.
so, yeah, so and so I always look at I look at certain brands in all types of industries, and I think about the things that are unique about them and what they do. And so one example that I like to give is the actor Ryan Reynolds.
Hmm.
The stuff that he does, like when it comes to his Mint Mobile business, and I think he has a gin company and stuff, and I'm just like, the way that he's doing his commercials and the way that he's talking about his businesses is like so tongue in cheek. And I'm just like, I don't
Hmm.
see anyone do that. That's like
Yeah.
so much to find inspiration from to apply in your own businesses where it's just like
Hmm.
this guy seems like he's just being himself and he's
Hmm.
almost doing anti-marketing, but it's so brilliant at the same time. When I see that, Ashutosh, I'm like, that's unique. That stands out.
Yeah.
That's marketing that I don't mind like
Hmm.
watching every time. Like if I'm on YouTube and I see one of those ads, I'm like, I'm not going to skip those because I'm
Hmm.
learning all of the time. So being unique, finding a special way in, of course, being authentic to yourself. These are what the powerful brands do, and I'm here for it, and I learn from them.
Yeah. Yeah. And tell me, how do you uh, help clients to uncover their brand identity?
I help them by asking really deep and curious and intentional questions. We peel
Hmm.
back all of the onion layers to get underneath everything about what's driving them, what motivates them, and what story that they are attempting to tell and being able to pull that out of them.
Hmm.
That's done through conversations, that's done through spending time with them, spending time with understanding what their journey is to this point. And so I will have a list of questions sometimes, and sometimes we will go off the cuff a little bit or go down certain rabbit holes, but it all ends up informing the process.
Hmm.
Because when you're working with a brand, I'm coming in with an objective viewpoint, which is valuable to a certain extent. But I also need to understand a lot about what is driving this whole organization, whether it's B2B or B2C, whether I'm working with a single person or a decision maker that's representing a Fortune 500 company. You're still dealing with humans at the end of the day. So what is driving them at this point? Why do they want to upgrade their brand in this way? What are they, what are they missing in terms of what it is that they do? For instance, sometimes their brands are outdated or obsolete, or they've gone through a change in management. And
Hmm.
so their entire dynamic has shifted.
Yeah.
I need to understand what that through line is so I can do my best possible work. And lastly, I help them by really getting them to see, which is not the way it used to be.
Hmm.
I help them see that this is really a collaboration and a co-creation rather than me being the one to just like magically give them their brand.
Hmm.
They're a co-author in the process
Yeah.
with me. So the more that we can uncover things together, the more honest and transparent you are, the easier this work ends up becoming. So
Hmm.
it's a mixture of strategy, coaching, and consulting. Like it's all layered in there because I'm asking questions that lead them to their own revelations. I'm
Hmm.
also helping provide direction and say, okay, yeah, we could go down this route. ultimately the decision is in their hands. But the more that we can co-create, respect each other as individuals, it becomes a fun thing, something
Right.
that we look forward to, and the process is extremely smooth.
Hmm. Hmm. Why did you feel the need to create Forge? And how does it stand apart from other creator networks?
I felt the need originally to do it because I had produced a course for creative entrepreneurs called Chaos to Clarity. This was meant
Hmm.
to help them optimize their performance and create these themes on their work days.
Hmm.
When I created that, I realized that I was giving people basically 4 weeks of training and access to me doing Q&As and things like that.
Hmm.
But the transformation that I was promising to them, Ashutosh, was so robust that we needed more than 4 weeks to really have this become a habit.
Hmm.
So the idea for Forge originally came from I need a space to support students off the back of my course who want to go
Hmm.
beyond the 4 weeks. So it's
Hmm.
just going to be a supportive community. But that idea quickly blossomed into a lot more than that as I began to talk with other creative entrepreneurs who were not my students for my course and just
Hmm.
seeing, well, what are the things that they did and didn't like from the communities that they already were in? What happens if this becomes more than just a supportive thing for
Hmm.
students? What if it's for everyone? So that seed of that idea of saying for students off the back of my course, it started sprouting and it started taking a life of its own. And
Hmm.
then it became, oh, okay, well, what happens if we can have heart-led action taking creative entrepreneurs in this space? And if
Hmm.
I'm going to create a community for them, how can I do it differently? How can it be a powerful brand? How can it be singular? And I opened up Notion and was just jotting down all of my ideas and kept going from there. But then what in this day, now we're about a little over 2 years in. What separates it from other communities are a few things that I've heard. One is that it's a space for co-equal experts, meaning that in the halls of Forge, for all intents and purposes, whether you're an aspiring creative entrepreneur or a seasoned one, we're on the same level foundation, including
Hmm.
me. So I'm not above anyone in there. There's absolutely no hierarchy. It's not a personality driven, like it's only Darnell's way of doing business. No,
Hmm.
it's peer to peer based, like mastermind type of vibes, but it's not priced like a mastermind, and it's much more than that.
Hmm.
So the whole idea of co-equal experts of saying, okay, this person's ideas are just as important as mine, having that be a central cornerstone of
Hmm.
the entire thing just changes the whole dynamic. So that's one
Hmm.
of the things that differentiates it. The other thing, one of the other things is that there are so many different ways to get value from within it, but it doesn't feel overwhelming. So, for example, there are trainings that are that have happened, that continue to happen in the community that are recorded, some that are live, where we are inviting guest experts in to share things and wisdom related to the world of, or through the lens of creative entrepreneurship
Hmm.
or being
Hmm.
neurodivergent. Well, what is going to help us as business owners in there? Insights and playbooks as well to help them align and integrate their creative identities with their entrepreneurial ones. So
Hmm.
it has evolved over time. But the whole thing is, well, these are two halves of us, which are infinitely tethered, but they are almost at opposite ends. And so if we want to do work that we love, if we want to create an amazing impact, and we want to be paid what we're worth, we have to align these two halves
Hmm.
so that neither one is at the expense of the other. You can do work that you love with clients that you love doing, make an impact, and then be paid. Like,
Hmm.
why should that just be limited to a handful of people?
Hmm.
So that foundational ethos there is also a thing that separates it. It's it's not something that I feel like I have all the answers to, but I
Yeah.
do feel like the more that we are in the same rooms together,
Correct.
we end up building a more objective reality than just
Hmm.
my own subjective views.
Amazing. Darren, left time for two more questions for you. How do you
Okay.
foster psychological safety and wellness in a digital creative community?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that you foster that by can having close relationships with your members, by seeing them as more than just members or numbers on a spreadsheet. Like you're
Mm,
seeing them as humans. When you are sincere, when you care about them, when you care about their well-being, like that shows through. It shows through in how you approach them. It shows through in how you keep in contact with them, even between the times where you are always in front of them.
mm,
So, a simple example would be like in the world of, let's say, like just your personal relationships, Ashutosh,
mm,
just your personal
mm.
ones. There are going to be times where, like, you think of them for holidays and their birthdays that you keep in touch. You say happy birthday, or you say happy
Mhm.
holidays. But all throughout the rest of the year, there are so many other opportunities for you to just call them up and just say, hey, I don't want anything. I'm
Yeah,
just thinking about you. I just want to wish you a good day. That's it.
correct.
It's stuff like that that you
Mm,
can do in a professional context, whether it's with your clients, whether it's with your community members, that change the
mm,
whole thing because not many people are doing that.
mm,
They're just thinking of, okay, well, how do I sell them on, how do I sell them on this thing? How do I make this next dollar? And you just see it as, well, transactional relationships more than anything else.
mm.
So we foster that by checking in with people when we don't have to, on our own merit, when we're not
Yeah.
called out for it,
Mm,
when you have difficult conversations with them, when you remember things like when they tell you about certain family members or certain work situations that they're going to, when that
mm,
becomes something that is embedded in your memory and you can bring that up in the future because
mm.
that shows that you were actually listening.
Yeah.
You also foster it by being present with them, by not being distracted when it's your time with them. You are locked in, and you
Mm,
set that example. Like you do that, and then people end up reciprocating it. End up becoming a mirror because they see that behavior
mm.
coming from the founder of something. So then it starts reverberating through them in their own relationships.
Very
So
interesting.
those are some ways that you do it
Yeah.
because you set the
Yeah.
example too.
Amazing response. Thank you. And my last question for you, Daniel. What would you say to the next generation of multi-hyphenate creatives who are just starting out?
Man, I would tell them so many things.
Hmm.
Um, I would say if there was one thing for the next generation is, okay, I give them this one. I like to tell people what is not demanded is rarely given to you on principle. And
Hmm.
what that means is when you first get in this game
Hmm.
as an entrepreneur or in the world of business, you have to stake your claim and you have
Hmm.
to know your value at that given time. You don't need to be arrogant or think that you have all of the answers, but you can't expect to say, okay, well, I'm gonna come into this game and I'm gonna underprice everyone just so I can
Hmm.
hurry up and get, a lot of business and expect that to keep you going for
Hmm.
years and years after the fact.
Hmm.
You have to really sit down and think about, well, what makes the most sense for what I need to earn for this to be a sustainable business? Like you have to get hyper practical. And a simple way to do that is to just look at, well, what are your circumstances right now? What are my living expenses?
Hmm.
What are my monthly living expenses if I
Hmm.
drop everything that I don't need and I just the essentials?
Hmm.
What do I need to break even relative to what I need to earn and how many hours I need to
Yeah.
work? Because you have to approach it like a business. And so when you can sit down and do all of that first, then that helps you understand, well, what should you be charging? Because it's completely open-ended. Like you can
Hmm.
charge whatever you want to. But at least starting from that foundation, Ashutosh, will allow you to say, well, I can grow from here because all I need to first be able to do is to take care of my
Hmm.
expenses. And when you can do that, then you can think about growth.
Yeah.
But it really starts with planting that stake in the ground and saying, I know what I'm worth. It's
Yeah.
happened before. I can repeat this over and over again.
Hmm.
And if I want to raise or if I want better clients or if I want to earn better money, it starts with you being the one to demand
Correct.
it. And you can't expect your client to just wake up one day and say, "Hey, you know what? You've been doing great work. I'm going to double
Hmm.
your salary." And also, you can take 3 weeks off, by the way. And also, let me help you build your business. Like no one is
Hmm.
going to call you and do that. You have to be the one to demand those things.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that's what I would
But
share with them.
yeah, but on that note, and your amazing tip, what is not demanded is not normally given to you. Therefore, please express yourself and demand what you believe you are worth. Thank you, Darnell, for speaking to me about your own incredible journey. We covered some very interesting ground on creatives and personal branding, and of course, on marketing. Thank you for speaking to me, and good luck to you.
Thank you as well, Ashutosh. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.